Hey guys, Master of Lore back at it again, and today we're diving into another smaller, not really smaller, but something that's not really talked about Middle-earth, and that being the creature of horses. Now, there are great horses in Middle-earth, and if you've read all of the tales of Tolkien, you would know that there's some pretty fantastical creatures out there. One of my favorite creatures being Shadowfax, of course, the horse of Gandalf the White. You'll remember in the Two Towers when we first see the appearance of Gandalf, he does the whole chant and he says, Shadowfax, my loyal steed, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, anyway, so we're going to jump right into it. Of course, we're reading a passage here out of the Bestiary of Done by Tolkien. This is something I get a lot of info from. It also helps me make these videos, and the reason why I love the Bestiary so much is because there's so much small stuff you've only heard once, and it actually gives you a little bit of backstory. Of course, we've seen many horses. We have a faction called the Rohirrim, or the Men of Rohan, and they all ride horses, basically, so yeah. And yeah, anyway, so we're jumping right into it. Sorry, I got kind of sidetracked there. But yeah, so here we go. How horses were first made is not told in the histories of Arda, but it is known that Nahar, the steed of Arome, the huntsman of the Valar, was the first such being to enter the world. So Nahar, the steed of Arome, was the first horse. And though all horses take from Nahar their form, he is the mightiest and most beautiful of the race. Golden are his hooves, and his coat is white by day and silver by night. Tireless, Nahar travels over the earth as easily as the swiftest eagle speeds through the air. Interesting there because the eagles were the creation of Manwë and Yanahar, who is the queen of the earth, and Manwë being the lord of the air. So they're almost in comparison to one another, which I think is cool because the eagles were quite powerful. Anyway, many men and elves bred horses to their needs, but it is said that the nobler breeds were descended from Nahar, and these were the elven horses of Eldamar, and those named the Miras, that lived in Rohavanion. Wow, that was a tongue twister. Rovanion. These noble breeds were the most part white or silver gray. They were long-lived and fleet, and they understood the languages of elves and men. That is quite fascinating. So I always wondered, at least, when he's talking to Shadowfax Gandalf, does he know what he's saying? And this tells you that, yeah, he does. So he talks to his horse, and they talk to each other. Possibly, who knows? But he at least understands what Gandalf is saying, which is really interesting and quite weird, but it's fantasy, so who cares? So most famous of the high elven horses in the histories that have come to men are those that the Noldor brought to Middle-earth. And best known of those horses was named Rokalar. This was the war horse that Fingolfin, most valiant of the Noldor kings, rode in his great ill-fated duel with Morgoth the enemy. So if you don't know, Fingolfin was obviously one of the Noldor kings, and yes, he is descendant of Aragorn. Now, he went and challenged Morgoth to a one-on-one duel. Why you would ever do such a thing, who knows? And he died. But anyway, moving on. In the third age of Sun, the noblest horses of Middle-earth were those wild steeds of Rohavanion. Wow, I can't say that. Rovanion, that were named the Miras. Now, if you don't know what that is, those are the horses of Rohan, which is why they're so powerful and seem to be way more powerful than any other horse that we see. In the 26th century of the age, Eorl, the first king of the riders of the Mark, tamed the Miras, and for many centuries only the king of the Mark and his sons could ride these horses. So really interesting there is that only the descendants of the true king of Rohan were able to ride the horses of the Miras. Interesting stuff, at least if you love this as much as I do. There were other breeds of horses in various parts of Middle-earth, where men, elves, and some other races, both good and evil, took them into service. Many of the people that came out of the Rhûn and Harad came to war mounted on horses or in horse-drawn chariots. So the Haradrim and the men of the Rhûn obviously rode horses. The men of the Rhûn were the guys with the nice, amazing gold armor that we see Sam and Frodo hiding from in the Two Towers. And if you don't remember that scene, it's when they put the cloaks over themselves and look like dirt. The horses of the ring race were fearsome indeed, but more terrible still were the horses that were taken into domain of Sauron and Mordor. The orcs of Mordor often came to horses of the Rohirrim at night and took 140 of them to their master Sauron. I don't know why that was so specific, but I'm assuming they just stole them. And he twisted their noble form to evil purpose. Such a steed was the mount of the Lieutenant Baradur, the Black Numenorian, who was called the Mouth of Sauron. Fascinating stuff. This beast was huge and black, but its tortured head was like a giant skull, and from its nostrils and eyes came forth red flames. That is amazing. So, if you think about it, not only was the Witch King's eyes and mouth burning with flame, in the book at least, his steed did as well, which is quite frightening. I mean, they don't really tell you that in the book. They don't give you that description of the horse, but to find it out here, I really, really enjoy. This passage did not mention Shadowfax, but Shadowfax is still my favorite. If you have a favorite steed from Middle-earth, please let me know. Of course, we do have the Ringwraiths and their not the Nazgul, the Fell Beasts, which are quite cool as well. And yeah. So just let me know what you guys thought your favorite steed was in Middle-earth, and maybe you have one, maybe you don't. A lot of people like, what's his name? Carl Urban's character, Iramir, the lieutenant of Rohan, who leaves because the king is mad and comes back later on to save their asses in the Two Towers. Anyway, I rambled there quite too long, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and let me know again, who's your favorite steed? Is it Shadowfax like me? Is it something else? Maybe it's Shelob, who knows? Let me know. Take care, guys, and have a good one.